When I think back to my childhood, there's one place that stands out more than anything else. It wasn't grand or impressive. In fact, if you passed it on the street, you probably wouldn't even notice it. But to me, it was sacred. My little escape. It was where summer days stretched forever, where the air smelled like grass warmed by the sun, and where the world felt simple and safe. The kind of place that exists only for kids, untouched by adult worries, glowing with that fragile kind of magic you never get back once you've grown. I can still picture it, the way the light hit at a certain hour, how the sounds seemed sharper there, the crunch of gravel, the rustle of leaves, even the way my own footsteps echoed. As a child, it felt alive, as if the place itself was watching over me. Of course, at the time, I thought nothing of it. Why would I? Childhood is built on little pockets of wonder, but looking back now, there's something unsettling in how vividly I remember every detail, almost too vividly, as if the place had left its mark on me, and maybe it did. Because even now, decades later, the smallest things can drag me back there. The smell of sun-warmed grass, the sound of gravel underfoot. They don't just remind me of my childhood. They remind me of that place, sharper than almost any other memory I have. It's like it never really let me go. The place wasn't always laughter and sunlight. There were moments, tiny fleeting ones, that felt off even if I didn't understand why at the time. It started small. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps when I knew I was alone, just a faint crunch on the gravel behind me, quick enough that I'd look around and see nothing there. I'd laugh it off, tell myself it was an animal, maybe a branch snapping under its own weight. But even then, the sound had a rhythm, a human rhythm. Other times I'd be sitting there perfectly still when a sudden silence would fall. Not the normal kind, not like the end of a song or a pause between words. This was heavier, like the world itself was holding its breath. The birds would stop, the wind would die. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring because you're straining to hear something, anything. And I can't explain this part, but I always had the feeling that if I spoke during those silences, something would answer. Something that was waiting just out of sight. Maybe that's why I still can't stand silence as an adult. Even now, I have to keep music on when I'm home alone, just to fill the air. Because when it gets too quiet, when the world holds its breath, I start to feel like I'm back there again. I remember asking once, just casually, if anyone else ever went there. My dad didn't even look up. He just shook his head. But my mom froze, her hand hovering midair like she wanted to say something. Instead, she just muttered, "Don't go there too late." That was it. No explanation. No story, just a warning. But even as a kid, I noticed the way she said it, like she wasn't giving me advice. She was giving me a rule. Back then, I thought it was my secret place. But the older I get, the more I wonder. Was I really the one who discovered it? Or was it the one that discovered me? I don't remember exactly how old I was when it happened. Maybe 9. Old enough to know what I saw. Young enough that no one believed me. It was late in the day, the kind of evening where the sky turns orange, then purple, then grey in the space of minutes. I had stayed too long, though I knew my mom's rule. Don't go there too late. But I didn't want to leave. The air was cooler, the place quieter. It felt different. That's when I heard it. A voice. Low, almost like a whisper, coming from deeper in the clearing. It didn't say my name, not exactly, but it had that sound. The way a parent's voice cuts through a crowd, the way it feels aimed at you. I froze. My first thought was that another kid had found my spot. Maybe someone hiding, playing a joke. But when I looked around, it was empty. Too empty. The air was thick, heavy. Then I saw it. Not clearly, never clearly. But there was something standing at the tree line. Tall, thin, still, watching me. I blinked and it was gone. Just trees swaying in the wind. I wanted to believe it was a trick of the light. But here's the part I can't explain. The gravel behind me crunched. One step, just one. Slow, deliberate. I ran all the way home. And here's what always struck me as strange. My mom always worried when I was late. She'd call me in with that sharp voice, sometimes even come looking for me, but not once, not a single time, did she ever come to that place. Neither of them did. It was as if they couldn't, as if it wasn't somewhere they could reach. That night, when I burst through the door, breathless and shaking, they didn't ask where I'd been, only what I thought I saw. Of course, they brushed it off. Bad dream, imagination, you scared yourself. But I remember my mom's face as I spoke. She didn't look surprised. She looked tired, like she had heard it all before, and I never told anyone this part. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake for hours, too afraid to close my eyes, certain something was standing in my doorway. I was too scared to call out, too scared to move. Even now, decades later, I still sleep with the door shut tight. That was the first time I knew something was wrong, but it wouldn't be the last. Years passed, and like most childhood haunts, I stopped going. School got harder, friends became more important, life moved on. The place faded from my daily routine, but it never really left my mind. It lingered in flashes. Those silences, those footsteps, that shadow in the trees. By the time I was an adult, I had half convinced myself it was just a kid's overactive imagination. A story I told myself so many times it felt real. But there was one thing I couldn't explain, the sharpness of the memory. Most of my childhood is a blur now. Teachers' names, old houses we lived in, even whole summers, they've softened with time, but that place is carved into me. Every detail still burns bright, the crunch of gravel, the curve of the path, the way the air felt when the world went silent. And when I tried to find it again, really tried, as an adult, I couldn't. I drove down the old roads I swore led there. I walked through fields and neighborhoods that should have been familiar. Nothing. It was gone. Not just gone, but impossible to place. Like it had been cut out of the world entirely. And yet, it was still the most vivid memory I had. That contradiction gnawed at me. How could I remember something so clearly when it never seemed to exist at all? That's when the cracks started to show. I began to notice how it seeped into everything. Into my habits, into my fears, into my work, the way I avoid silence, the way I keep doors shut at night. Even the stories I write and the sketches I make. Half the time, I don't even realize I'm recreating it until it's done. Paths leading nowhere, places that shouldn't exist. It all comes back to there. At first, I thought it was nostalgia, then obsession, but now I'm starting to wonder if it was something else entirely. Something that didn't just live in my memory, something that's been living through it. It started small, a slip of the hand while doodling during a work call, and there it was again. The same crooked path, the same arching trees. The lines came too easily, like I wasn't drawing it so much as remembering it. I told myself it was nothing. Muscle memory. Childhood nostalgia bleeding through. But soon it wasn't just sketches. It was stories. Every blank page I tried to fill somehow circled back to the same setting. Lonely fields, dead-end trails, a silence that swallowed sound. And then it spread into my dreams. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with gravel still crunching under my feet, the scent of damp grass in my nose, convinced I'd only just walked away from it. More than once, I found myself standing at the window, staring out at the dark as if I'd hear footsteps outside. That was when I started to realize maybe I had never left at all. The strangest part, I wasn't the only one. I never told anyone about the place, not once, but people around me began to describe things that sounded eerily close. A coworker mentioned a dream about a path that led nowhere. A friend sketched a clearing while drunk at my kitchen table, then stared at it like he didn't know why he'd drawn it. I laughed it off, but inside, I was shaken. Because the more I thought about it, the more it felt like the place was slipping through me into other people's lives, feeding itself. And deep down, I knew why. It wasn't that I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was that it didn't want me to. It wanted to stay alive. For years I thought I was keeping this memory alive, clinging to it, feeding it. But that's not the truth. The truth is, it's been keeping me. Every time I drew it, every time I dreamed about it, every time I filled silence with music or shut a door against the dark, I wasn't avoiding it. I was obeying it, carrying it forward. And then came the realization that broke me. No one else remembered this place because it was never there. Not in the way a park or a street or a backyard exists. It was never a place. It was something that used the shape of a place. Something that waits in memory, not in soil. That's why my parents never came for me there. That's why my mom only gave me rules, never answers. That's why I could never find it again as an adult. Because it wasn't anywhere to be found. It was inside me. And now it's inside you. Because all it takes to keep it alive is knowing. You don't have to stand where I stood, or hear the gravel shift behind you, or feel the air crush down in silence. You only have to picture it, carry it, let the thought of it follow you home. And you already have. It doesn't matter where my place was, it only matters that you've heard about it. And now that you know, it's only a matter of time before it finds a corner in your own world. So tell me, when you close your eyes tonight, where will it appear?